Practicing professional way of selling. 10 traits to practice to win clients and build long-lasting relationships. So my name is Prashant. I'm a partner at Growth Aspire. So in this short video, I want to give you an idea of just like many other professions, whether it's a doctor or lawyer or engineers, they have certain practices. If they follow it, they know that the chance of their success in their professional becomes very high. Now, what is that for sales? So, what are those practices as a when it comes to selling? You go to practice. Since there is no degree or there is no qualification, especially for someone to become a sales professional. So these practices are not generally written down, or someone has to go through a multiple years of uh, education to learn what are those real practices, just like doctors or lawyers do. But still, there are some real practices which have been followed by top salespersons. And what are those? If you can follow those, and it can make a huge difference in your own success. Especially, this is very important if you are selling to B2B clients, if you are selling to some high ticket solutions which involves to multiple stakeholders. But let's understand first why is this uh, understanding this is important. Now, if you really see, sales has existed for ages. Ever since I think people moved from jungles to start in a civilization, people have traded goods or services in exchange of some kind of food or any other things. So, and also what has happened is people in general, every day we experience some sort of selling, whether we are buying something or whether we are selling in certain way, maybe to as a parent you are selling something to your kid, you are trying to influence them, or as a student you are trying to get something done, or as a colleague you are trying to get something done from another colleague. So a lot of these everyday people have experienced sales. It has been done for ages. But what is important is if you're serving B2B clients or selling high ticket solutions and you want to influence many stakeholders, you need a different approach to sell versus what is practiced or experienced in everyday sales. And this different approach is what we call a professional way of selling, where the focus is more on the buyers first, understanding more of buyer and how to really keep their interests highest. Now, what exactly is this professional selling? So, if you really want to define this professional selling way of selling, I would like to highlight three important points. The first one is the professional seller is someone who can actually bring about a purchase where none would have happened. I'm sure as a sales everywhere, people would have made some sales where you don't have to do anything. A buyer will come and he will place an order and you make a sale and things really flash happens. Now, but reality is that kind of sales happening is always very tiny. The real job of professional seller is to go out to the market and find out where people have a lot of resistance to buy your solutions, and people might have really not even thought that they would want that, but you create a sale. That's the most important thing. And the second important thing is how do you do this is by actually creating a desire to buy in the prospect. You are making a desire in the prospect that what you are offering them is in their own interest. So you are not doing anything else. The whole idea is how you can create a desire in your prospect so they want whatever you are trying to sell. And the third, which is most important, is finding solutions for win-win and building a long-lasting relationship. So this is the most important. Like if you are selling to B2B clients or something, or want to selling high ticket solutions or anybody, your key objective is to be not to somehow make profit out of that, even at the loss for your buyers. Now that is not the whole thing. You want to make sure that you're offering solutions which are actually needed by them. So you are coming to a mutual agreement so that both find a win-win, and the whole idea is to build a long-lasting relationship. Now, as you can see, the professional seller approaches the completely the sales in a different way than what most people think of sales. And what is that? Not a professional way of selling is obviously just an order taking. So only serving to active buyers who have understood the needs. Or anybody like you go to a chemist and you ask them certain medicines and he gives you, that's an order taking. He's not doing any sales. Or even in businesses, obviously, when a requirement comes, when everything comes, you're just trying to fulfill. That is more of there is a sale is happening, there is a, but it is not a professional selling, and that is not going to make a huge difference where the buyer has done all his job. Now, second is high pressure selling. Yeah, there is some buyers, but who are not interested, but you are using certain high pressure selling by persuading to who are not even ready, by using certain tactics, by using certain emotional uh, emotional responses. You are creating some kind of them. So a lot of people do in many businesses, in education, in hospitals and all. We have all experience. We don't want something, but they are putting us in a pressure where you are forced to buy that, or you're forced to um, kind of transact that. That's not again a professional selling. What you are doing is a very low pressure way of selling where people really interest. But the third one, which is very important, is closing sales with a win-lose position and not bothered about relation. This is not a professional way of selling. Uh, we have all experienced again this in a small. If you have gone to a tourist place, you know that people there, they don't want to build a relation. All they want is to somehow make the maximum profit out of you, because they know that next time you will not come. Or we have all experienced maybe sometimes the taxis or the autos who generally charge like anything when they know that you have no other options. So these are things which are not really a professional way of selling. But now, how do you practice the professional way of selling? Now, there are 10 traits to do this, and the first, and having an idea of these 10 traits will give you a very good way that how to approach sales in any this one. So these are traits which you want to remember and try to keep practicing these things. The first one is you want to sell an idea. The whole thing is, it is the idea is most important. You're not selling product per se or a service. They What your customer gets moved is the idea behind your product or service. So you want to always focus on what is that idea you are trying to which can help your customers. So try to sell an idea and not product or service by itself. The second one, you want to connect to buyer needs. This is most important. Like uh, you cannot generate needs in the buyers, but you can discover the needs of them. And you want to discover your client needs, your buyer needs, and treat every buyer as a unique, so that you can discover their needs and offer solution which matches to their needs. And that's the whole idea of a professional seller. He's trying to serve to the buyer needs. The third, which is very important, is you want to connect to the feelings. You are selling to the emotions, because people buy on emotions. Any decision making happens only at the emotional level, and what you are trying to achieve in your sales is always trying to connect to the feelings of people, trying to see what is that makes them sad, or what is that makes them happy, what is that makes them frustrated. How can your product or solution help them address those things? So that's the third, which is most important trait. And the fourth one, this is a very controversial. A lot of people don't think, but the fact of the this thing is, a quality by itself cannot be a factor for sale. Just because you have a high quality of a product doesn't relate in a sale. So quality is very much important, but do not think that you can promote a high quality and try to get sales. At the same time, price is not a factor for sale. A lot of people think that I can discount my price and I can get a lot of orders. Now that may happen in certain businesses where, but in most this, and you should not consider price is itself a factor for sale. The product, the how you have connected to the needs of buyers, the idea, those are the things which are very important for sales. And inner conviction about the product and company. Now, this is most important when you are involved in a very long sales, when you are involved in some sales which involves multiple stakeholders, where uh, companies, the buyers can question many things. The conviction what you have about your own product or company is very important. So, not having a conviction about product or company means you will never be able to influence others. So, develop that conviction about your own product or company to really get more success in sales. Now, following the process and methods. Now, most of the sales people think that it happens randomly. They don't think that there is anything they can consistently produce results. But the reality is, top successful people know that any sale happens only through following a proven process. So there are a series of steps you can follow and you can learn from that. And there are definite methods exist. There are different methods like solution selling, consultative selling. Different method exists depending on the business model, depending on the complexity of product. So you want to understand this and try to follow these so that you can repeat your success. And objections are part of every successful sales. Now, this is another important thing, especially for people who have entered new to the sales or when they are trying to promote a new product or solution. They encounter a lot of objections in sales, and they think that they have a the product is not good or people are objecting. Uh, but the reality is that any buying involves certain objections. It's a typical buying process where people want to object, and it's the job of salesperson to resolve those objections. So it's important to know that any sale will have objections, and there is a saying also that negotiations where client don't express any objection never ends in a sales. So it is a welcome sign when people object to certain things so that you get a chance to answer them. So treat this as a good sign and try to make yourself familiarize with a lot of different kinds of objections. Now, appeal. So you got to be appealing to your products when you are making a presentations or when you are making the initial calls. So you must know how to appeal to your people. This one, but that's where the few words can make or break the sales. The whole idea is, in especially in presentation, what you say makes a huge difference. And here, a couple of words can make completely break or make or break of sales, especially when you're presenting a price, when you're trying to close. What you say can completely change the way buyer thinks about your product or solution. So it's a very important compared to many other professions. The words play a very big role when in terms of selling. Now, understanding power of habits. So this is something which is not a typical selling, but the whole idea of habits into the sales is, if you really look at it, there is sales involves lot of steps, and certain steps you want to make sure that you never miss it. So that's where the habits is important. Like for example, when you are meeting a customer, what are the first ways you want to interact? So, or on the first interaction of a customer, you may want to send an email follow up, or how many follow ups you want to make. All these are things which you don't want to remember, but you want to make it into a habit in your so that it becomes very effective. And a lot of top successful salespeople, if you really see, they have a set of perfect routines. They when they are making a prospecting, they know that at the morning time they do at a specific date, specific day of a week, multiple days of a week at a morning time they do, and they will have a clear checklist to follow. So that's the kind of habits that helps them to really stick to the difficulty of sales and helps them to overcome. And the final, the 10th one, which is very important, is winning an argument doesn't result in sales. And also, losing the argument doesn't mean you lost a sale. So, sales conversation is not all about arguing with your buyers. Sometimes it does make feel that when buyer doesn't agree to you, you want to convince them, you want to argue and give them real points. But unfortunately, that is not going to result a sale. The whole idea of selling is to make your customers decide themselves that what you're offering a solution is good for them. So you want to create that kind of a situation, or you have to use the all the different mechanism exists to help customers decide, and argument doesn't really help in that. So that's the 10th one. So as you can see, these 10 traits can make a huge difference if you start believing in these and practice this. So all the best to your sales success. I hope this video has helped you. If you have any comments, you can always share.